This show is brought to you by Nice Mug. Nice Mug is the only mug made entirely out of ice. For more information, go to nicemug.com and enter the coupon code SAUNA for 10% off your entire purchase. So maybe you're listening to this on an airplane somewhere, or maybe driving with work or what have you. And one of the ideas of Sauna Talk is that we can bring this vibe, this feeling of hot room, being in a sauna, and the chitter chatter that can go along with that, and some fun, crazy thinking, to where you are in your work and your busy schedule. This podcast is just an opportunity for you guys to relax a little bit. I mean, that's one of my goals with Sauna Talk. It can get little fun. It doesn't have to be all serious all the time, and this episode is no exception. It's a special episode. I think Sauna Talk works really well with one guest. We can kind of drill into what their life is all about and maybe what sauna, authentic sauna, means to them. But this one's unique. We have three folks, and I'm going to introduce you to these three people through the podcast. And you might as well get to know who they are right now. They're great folks with regard to sauna, in that they take it. They're really into it. They're like I am about sauna, authentic sauna, the real deal. And we get into a real deal sauna. This is the first episode in my cabin sauna up north on an island in northern Minnesota. It was a perfect day. It was early June. It was rainy. It was kind of cool. And the fresh, we had fresh growth out on the birches and the pines, and the birds were chirping, and life was really in full effect. We were all up north at my island cabin sauna to experience National Sauna Day in Embarrass, Minnesota. We're first joined on the bench with Garrett Conover, and Garrett came a long way. He came 1,200 miles from Maine to northern Minnesota. He's working on a book. He took some wonderful photos and got some insight about sauna in northern Minnesota. It was a great trip. Great to have him. Great to get to know him better. Soft-spoken guy, enjoys the quiet on the bench. And I feel kind of bad because I can get all revved up, but he really enjoys the silence. And so I hope I didn't overburden him with too much yapping. So there we go. So we had him and Garrett and John Pederson, 612 Sauna Society. I think you guys have heard a lot about what John's up to. Millennial with a real spirit to bring sauna to more and more people in a community-based environment. John has a wood-burning sauna. I helped him build it. I was very proud to do that. He's got a wood-burning mobile sauna in his backyard where he's renting right by the shores of Minnehaha Creek in Minneapolis. I could walk to his house and have done it many times. And Lee Sarkela, I got to know Lee on this trip. And, a friend of John's is a friend of mine. And Lee was roped in and fit right in. He stayed at my cabin sauna on Friday night, and you could hop in a boat and shoot due east and run into his island on Lake Vermilion, his family island. We talk a lot about his family island and his history of Lake Vermilion and Tower, Minnesota. And what a great vibe, the four of us. All long-tail sauna enthusiasts. And, we talk about the Pine Island connectivity and how it connected all four of us in an indirect sort of way. We, hit the lake plunge and then talk about all kinds of things, like a recent visit to 612 Sauna Society by Magnus Nielsen, the Swedish celebrity chef, and sauna being a great equalizer. Egos get checked at the door, and this event was no exception. A lot of folks enjoyed the party with Magnus Nielsen and JP's Backyard Sauna. And then JP gets on the rampage about a nice community sauna in Minneapolis and why doesn't it exist. And I'm trying to encourage him in all capacities that he's the man to make it exist, and he will. We talk about Chicago Sweat Lodge a little bit. You'll learn more about that facility and how it's a unique breed to have sauna meisters, people that host saunas, whether it be a public institution like Chicago Sweat Lodge or what JP's doing with this mobile sauna through the winter, this past winter. We're going to hear a little bit more about Lee's family's island cabin. And then Garrett brings in what's called tasteful mega wealth, how there can be tasteful mega wealth out there where you don't have ostentatious builds with grass right down to the shoreline and weed killer dripping into the lake and wrecking stuff, but how tasteful mega wealth can work where people apply their wealth toward beauty. A lot about canoeing. Garrett's a avid canoe outfitter guy out in Maine, has brought many folks on many canoe trips, including his winter. He's also done a lot of winter camping. And then round 3, we get into some really neat stuff about the worldliness of sauna, some rapid fire questions with Lee, and then the rain stopped. So on that note, welcome to Sauna Talk. All right, so how we doing?
Great.
It's pretty warm in here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really perfect.
Yeah.
I love the kitty corner door.
Thank you, yeah. So it says it's 200?
It's dropped a smidgen.
With the door opening.
Yeah, you and I coming in and out introduced frigidness.
And what are we down to now?
204.
204. And here we are on Pine Island on Lake Vermilion in northern Minnesota. And Garrett, you came how far to in this past few days to get where we are here? How far did you come from?
Well, from central Maine, so I would guess it's probably 1,200 miles.
1,200 miles. And you flew from Portland, Maine?
Portland to LaGuardia to Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Then driven here today. It's perfect.
Yeah, great. And what are your first impressions of the northern Minnesota area? I mean, you've spent a lot of time up here, which we'll get to in a minute. Yeah. But what are your first impressions upon returning up here? This vibe, we had a hike. We got an hour and a half, maybe longer hike on Pine Island just now. What are some of your first re-impressions or impressions of this area?
Well, on the drive up, of course, seeing cotton grass and tamaracks in the bogs just sets my heart aflutter. And then I've rarely been here in open water seasons. The only other time being in June at North House Folk School.
And that's out of Grand Marais?
Grand Marais. And so I have friends there in Finland and in somewhere halfway between Finland and Ely.
Isabella is about the only little town there.
Yeah, they live about an hour from each, and they're not near anything. So, and then a lot of friends in Ely. Most of my trips have been in the winter.
So if you were to compare the nature here, like the natural area, the flora and all that stuff, to Maine, what are a couple of the main differences that you can sense right away after coming up here again this trip just now?
Oh, I think probably the similarities stand out strongest. But given that, it's transitional forest and boreal forest, which are my favorites anyway. But there's a lot more naturally occurring red pine here than there are in Maine.
Okay.
That we saw some lovely pale corydalus blooming on a ledge during our hike, and just being here in the new leaves is fun wherever I am.
So if you were to be transposed into the middle of an island in Maine, on some lake in Maine, what would be the main differences there? You mentioned the red pine.
Yeah.
What else would you notice right away? Is it more hardwoods or the pines, birch?
In the northern part, it's much more spruce fir. There's not as much bedrock and outcropping in Maine. It's plenty present where it is, but there's a lot more big rivers with long stretches without serious rapids and
Yeah.
fewer lakes.
But it's you touched upon something that intuitively I find interesting, in that you said it's easier to speak to the commonalities of the nature between Maine and northern Minnesota. I think that's beautiful, because what that tells me is, like, you can look on the map, and you could look at a map of Maine, which I've done, quite a bit. And the reason why I'm asking you all this is that topography really interests me.
Resonates, right?
It resonates. Right. Much the same as when I was in Scandinavia and had to come back to America, and I looked at the topography of northern Minnesota and I said, I gotta go here.
Yeah, that's home.
Do you feel that too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I drive out to teach at North House with a bunch of gear, I make that right-hand turn in Duluth, and I'm in tears some of the drives, just because it's such a homecoming.
That's a beautiful statement. I like that. Yeah. I really think with sauna and in nature, they are hand in hand. I think people, and I've yet to be proven wrong, but the folks that I know that really dig sauna, really enjoy the sauna experience, equally love nature.
I would say that's true, and I would say that follows the path of origins and traditions in the immigration story in North America. And I haven't had the pleasure of touring sauna country in Scandinavia yet, but when it occurs, it's going to be another kind of homecoming.
Yeah, the Finns the Scandinavians, they love nice mug, and I don't know if it's because it's I talk about it on Sauna Times, maybe they heard about it, I don't know, but it's like the people in Scandinavia that are into this nice mug thing, which I am so much. I think that there's this like celebration of nature.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes hand in hand, with people that.
Because even if you're in your backyard in Minneapolis drinking beer from an ice mug, there's real ice. So you've got a connection right there.
That's it.
Whether it's recognized at the time or front and foremost, or whether it's subliminal, it's a very real presence, and it's an important one.
Amen. So, folks, we're joined on the bench with a couple other sauna enthusiasts.
Sorry to interrupt your nice mug commercial.
Hey, you're going to be doing the same with Stoker. What are you talking about? You got to web those in there, JP.
You got to teach me how to do that.
Oh, you're a natural. Don't sell yourself short. And Lee's sitting on the bench here. So if those listening here, there's 4 characters sitting on a sauna bench. So this is what the beauty of podcasting, right? It's like the long tail interest, and the beauty of like this new technology that we're living in is, I don't think the 4 of us would be sitting on the bench here if it wasn't for, call it the internet or whatever. But the JP 612 Sauna Society has been a catalyst in a beautiful, wonderful way to bring together these long tail enthusiasts of whatever, in our case it's sauna, right? Garrett,
and that's perfect, because Lindy, who's building a full scribe log cabin on this island, half a mile from here, wrote me via email and said, you got to get in touch with my neighbor Glenn. He publishes an online thing called Sauna Time. So I did. I enclosed a letter, got a letter back. We communicated a bit, and through Glenn, that led with no missteps and quickly to the 612 Sauna Society.
Oh, that was through Glenn, and ultimately through this island that we're sitting on right now, because
we're on the island of origin.
Island of origin.
Wow. We're full circle.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
And Lee is of and from this place, so
the
rest of us are happy immigrants, but we're not of here, and it's always a pleasure to be.
And how Lee, you found us is through JP, or was it through Lake Vermilion?
It was through Carrie Levin in the Twin Cities. Ran a news article as I was getting ready for work down in North St. Paul, and I saw the news article they ran on the sauna. And the one thing I hate about any sauna in the Twin Cities at a gym is they won't let you throw water on it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, huh.
It was just a hot room.
Yeah. You may damage the stove. Do not throw water on the rocks.
Right.
Shame on you
Yep.
for actually trying to make a real sauna out of our sterile interior. So on that note,
So then I said, a real sauna. This is awesome. I gotta check this out.
Oh, because I was throwing water on the rocks.
Yep. In the picture, on the video, and so I knew it was a real one. So I think it was at Como.
That was your first time down?
It was Como sometime in February.
Just a few weeks later, I'd roped you into
helping
all kinds of
move it.
all kinds of disasters, like being there on move day.
Oh, you were the tow truck guy?
Turned
I
into quite a.
I waved to the tow truck.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, that's a connection.
He was a cool guy.
Yeah.
I wish I was a tow truck guy.
And that's another element is contribution. You know, when you get into something that we're four of us that are into sauna, right? We contribute in our own ways, and we all have this passion, and it's kind of exhibiting itself in different ways, and coming out. But through collaboration, like Lee, the great help that you gave to JP, I mean that's the kind of thing where you got off the couch. It was probably fucking cold outside. What was it, like January when you moved that Little Box Sauna?
Let's see, Como, January was Blackbird, 30th and Nicollet.
It was
February
15 below one night at Blackbird.
I mean,
we had the coldest night of the. I think it was some kind of record when we were in January.
For down there, yeah. Probably was 40 below up here at the same time.
Was that when you were back here last time? Was during that?
Yeah, it was the cold
spell?
snap.
Yeah, and that's when the heater kept going out.
Yeah.
That was when I was standing out there with that hair
hair
dryer
dryer.
trying to melt the regulator or thaw the regulator. Turns out it wasn't the regulator at all.
And
so
you
it was
had
standing
guests
out there
in the
with
hot
some-
room or on their way?
What's that?
It was
At
close.
that night, like you were hosting a sauna,
Yeah,
and guests
people
were like
were
literally
in
on
there enjoying and having a good time, and I was
Yeah.
standing outside and that
Trying to refire it.
20
Heat it up.
negative 20.
Yeah.
Nice.
And to make it even more of a challenge is you'd be messing around like that, and then 30 seconds later you open the door to the hot room and you have to like de-stressify yourself and say, "Hey, everybody, having fun?"
Cause I'm not.
Yeah.
You noticed a lull? Oh,
What's a little cool in here? Oh, let me go check on that.
That would sound nearly as that's was the time when the hitch broke between two groups came.
Okay.
The whole front jack went out.
The jack went.
The jack went out.
I saw the jacks that were out.
And,
No one actually.
that caused the other jack to go out. We had a seismic shift of about a foot.
We had like a miniature
Oh,
earthquake.
you were in there when that
In the
happened.
hot room?
In the hot room.
Garrett and I, and that was I was like, okay.
All right, guys, how'd you like that?
Well, I think we're gonna wrap this one up, and then Garrett and I ran this triage where we got that whole. It's like a 10,000
car
payload.
jack and two screw jacks, and we had it solved
Wow.
instantaneously.
Before the next group showed up, we had gone down and bought a new.
But it was fun to see John under pressure because it had stabilized. We could have said, we're at an angle, but let's continue the session. And he wisely, being a public sauna, said, "We're sorry. Come back if you can. We're gonna have to cut this for people's safety," and everybody was totally.
And how many folks needed?
About that.
Oh yeah.
How many needed to liquidate at that point?
There were probably 8 of us. It wasn't real full yet.
Yeah,
I'm
we were
gonna go
surprisingly. Well,
liquidate
luckily,
in the lake.
they were in a sauna, so they were in a pretty like calm.
They didn't care.
Yeah, right. Had they had a couple rounds in, do you think?
Yeah, it was. They had I think a good 2 rounds in, so they had just not a full. I think it was enough to leave them wanting more and coming back.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, that's a good thing I think about.
My goal was because some of those people did come back. Cause it reminds me of that story. I was like, well, the fact that you're reminding me of that story on a return visit is a good sign.
Yeah, right on. And I think that's part of the ability that you have with the sauna in a public space where, and you've done a great job of getting people to sign up for slots. And things in slots run out, and then you've done also, I think, a great job of releasing more space, So those that were just, and I don't know if this was conscious or not, but when you really think that through, you release a bunch and then it fills up, and that's great, right? And then you release some more as you go, and the people that are really into it are going to take those spots,
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't any kind of strategy this year. So it was just that we were figuring things out as we went along. So we would like figure out an extension at Blackbird. Okay, we're open for another week. Here's the deal. It's going to be not going to be sponsored this time around. In other words, like, you know, we have to pay for our costs. Here's the cost. And, but we were kind of, and then the next week after that, there might be a different sort of solution to the residency. Like, okay, actually now we're going to be at this spot. Here's the different, you know, they're going to sponsor it, so it's going to be free. Yeah. But so we were actually just making it up as we went, and then just making tickets available. But it did keep the people that were listening and engaged and really wanting to be there were finding it and finding, you know, and coming back, which kept the right people there. You know?
Yeah, and what I was going to say up to that point also is when you limit supply. I mean, this is like a business thing, and I really don't mean it as a hardcore business thing, but when you limit supply, you create demand. And by the fact that this thing wasn't open in a lot of cases 7 days a week, and you had these chunks, you know, and it was winter, you had more demand than supply. And it's not like you were being a dick about it. I think you were being very good about it in terms of people understanding and respecting the value of that time that they have in that hot room. They signed up for it. Well, they got a 2 hour, was it 2 hour window?
An hour and a half.
90 minutes.
Perfect. That's my point.
Yeah.
We learned about that as we went along too. We learned like just, you know, what, offering it for free, at what point of during the residency, because it takes a while for people to, you know, they experience it, and then, but it's not until the return visit, or it takes it's a practice. The novelty part of it, like, is not really where it's at. So if you can get somebody to come back and then their second or third visit,
and bring someone else.
Yeah, and the type of experience they have as a return user who's also sharing it with somebody, you know, that's where it starts to become something that's actually meaningful to them, and not just like an interesting thing that they did. That's, you know, kind of out of the norm. That they saw on Care 11. Yeah, I would say. I mean, you tell me about that. When did your real experience start? When did it not be the thing you were checking out from the news and start to be?
Probably after the second one.
Whatever it is.
For sure, yeah.
Just in the short time I was there were some repeaters I saw many 2 times and a couple 3 times. And when I went over to Sauna Sauna, one of the people that was in Little Box showed up over there.
Yeah, I think that was my friend Brent.
I think it was, yeah, I remember his name.
Brent Kudak.
And
went to high school with him.
You know, and then a bunch of regulars that were friends over there that knew Molly. So it's just a neat little tribe that shifts and moves and
a wonderful tribe.
Yeah.
So John, not to put you on the spot too much, but we're looking for a couple of numbers here. Do you mind if I ask you a couple numerical questions about this past winter? And
I'm finally ready for those questions.
Okay, and I'm not trying to corner you, but I think listeners would find it really interesting. So again, in context, we're talking about JP's effort this past winter, 2015-2016, Minneapolis, Minnesota, a mobile sauna, and it was the Little Box Sauna, 100%.
Which was my effort in partnership with Molly Reichert and Andrea Johnson, who are the builders and designers of Little Box, and they reached out to me, and they, you know, we thought, what if we got Sauna Society, that group, that community, and we brought the resource of Little Box and the philosophy and the vision of it, and those things too really came together in a really I think impactful way this winter. It was ultimately what happened this year.
Yeah, in a very unconscious way too. I mean, the sauna was built without this in mind. I would say
more organic than unconscious.
Well done.
Definitely unconscious, but more organic and purposeful. But a purpose that has been and is still revealing itself. And I think those people that keep showing up and keep finding it to be a positive experience, or people that are still discovering what it is along with me, because I know I am. The people that I'm talking to have that kind of.
I agree. I love that. How many folks, unique folks, not repeats and stuff, but how many unique folks came through the sauna this past winter?
Visits. So that we're talking about visits there. So we had at Little Box around 1,700 visits. If you add the firehouse into that, we're looking more upwards of 2,100. but at just the Little Box through reservation.
Okay, so that's 2,100 visits in the course of the winter.
So,
and how would you say that number would equate in terms of unique people, like individual people? How many unique people?
Yeah, well so we had, I just calculated the metrics on repeating users, and we had, I haven't taken out those repeated users yet, so I actually don't have the number.
Yeah, so maybe a third.
But I had a list of about 20 people, 20 to 30 people who had all been they came 7 times.
Wow.
At least 7 times.
That's beautiful.
You know, so like quite a few regulars, I guess is the measure is like what I can say about the number that I have.
So at this point, the data we know is 2,100 visits to just the Little Box.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm just guessing maybe at least a third are non-repeat. So 800 people maybe went through there.
I think it was 600 returning people. So it was almost half of the people.
Okay.
Almost half of the people were returning users.
That's a beautiful number. I think that's great. It says a lot on both sides. A
Very
lot of
good.
people,
Very
a
telling.
lot of return. We're a little off cycle with you, Garrett. We had a long cool down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went out on the deck and cooled in the rain.
Oh, good for
That's
you.
nice.
Pull that,
And I found a
pull
tip.
that tight right there.
I had a hitchhiker from our walk.
Oh, did you find one, huh?
Yeah.
I had 5.
You had 5.
I had 5. 4, wait, 3 on the pant, 2 on the leg. Same
Well-
leg, too.
We're talking about wood ticks. The 4 of us went on a long hike, and I tell you, one of the many great things about sauna is it's a great thing to do after a hike.
The tick removal
Tick
strategy.
removal. What'd you call it?
Yeah.
A tick what?
Tick removal strategy.
You don't think a tick? You think a tick would die in here?
No,
It
but
would be released, maybe.
I've thrown many of them on the top of that set. I've watched them die.
The skeletons are
So if you're
still
keeping more heat.
exoskeletons.
Yeah, they're a new advent in northern Maine just the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's something we're still trying to learn to get used to.
Oh.
Okay, you ready for a little? I'm being a little sensitive to Garrett. I don't want to rush you out. How
You
long
won't,
you been in the hot room?
Not long. Literally would be the perfect antidote to cooling session. See?
On our hike, we were talking a little bit about the universality of a hot room and the feel of the thermal mass of hot rocks and that universal feel of the water being tossed on rocks and how it's a draw and no matter where you are, it's that common wonderful feeling.
Not a whole lot of difference really between one sauna to another when it comes. There's in terms of elements, there's the rocks, there's the fire bench.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot of with different variations on some pretty basic themes.
It is a throwback to simplicity, isn't it? You don't need gadgets, buttons, passwords, login.
Stoves have gotten a little better, but that's about the only technology. That's.
And I want to speak to that real quick for those building saunas, and there's often this debate, like, Lee, you've experienced a lot of Lake Vermilion saunas, and we've seen them on our hike today. Do you see more loading wood from the outside or loading from the inside?
Ooh, good question. I'd say it's pretty 50-50,
Yeah,
actually.
just our short walk was 50-50,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did we
Yeah.
see, 5 or 6?
Yeah, a few more. Anyway, the old school way was always load from the outside.
Which I never got until recently, and I've kind of come back around on this. I used to think that was kind of like, why would you do that? Like, I like the ambiance of opening the door in the hot room and being able to smell the smoke and hear the flames better. But I tell you, if you're sauning, it's about the reason that starts to become more of a factor is if you're sauning every day, sauning a lot, it makes a big mess when you're bringing wood in all the time. You're loading it in there,
Cleaning every day.
cleaning it every day. It gets to be a lot of work. You
The
realize
ash, cleaning the ash.
and just like when you're bringing wood in your hot room, you're just like
Dirt,
dropping stuff on the
bark.
floor,
Yeah.
bark on the floor, and you're just going in and out a lot more. But it only becomes until I started sauning every day, I didn't get that I didn't get it because you're just like, oh no, it's kind of nice, the ambiance and stuff, but
Well, and it's
cleanup is
not limited to through the wall loading to the outside. One of the best uses of it is if you have a cooling room combination guest room in winter,
Where you
just
can
the
load some
door
there.
heats that room to a reasonable temperature while
Very
the hot
true.
room goes off the scale.
Yep.
So you
That's
have
the
best
third
of both
option,
worlds.
and
I think
the third,
that's, I think that's what I see a lot more on the lake here.
Yeah.
That they do.
load to the changing room.
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense because you don't
And
need that
it,
extra
it
heat
still
in the-
keeps a little mess indoors, right? But it's not in the hot room. And the value of a semi-warm changing room becomes apparent if it's 32 below.
Amen to that. But that said, this sauna right here, you know, it's loading from the hot room, and it's a great space to sleep in the wintertime, and a guy can just crack the door here. So it's that option going. But yeah, so really there is no optimal feed from the outside, feed from the changing room, or feed from the hot room. There is no, you know, magic answer. It's what
Depends.
works for you.
Preference.
Yeah. I mean, you want to know my preference?
Sure.
Would you ever? Did you even say your preference, or are you being very Scandinavian and?
I'd say I like the inside
Okay.
because I like the smell. I don't mind the mess if you clean it up once in a while. It's not every couple days you can sweep it. But like the smell, you see either the spark through the dampers or you see it through a glass plate. You can see the sparks. You can see the flame, which is nice as well.
Amen. What's your vote, JP?
Well, it just depends on the space. What works best for the space.
Are you
But,
being
like,
like Switzerland?
No, it's actually like that's a real answer. Like if I had this, my answer to that question in this
Running for an
space
office.
would actually be
He's a political candidate.
Yeah.
Sorry, JP.
no. My answer for this setup you have here with the spare room right out there, I think a feet on the outside would be really cool because then you'd also have like a wood stove ambiance in your guest room.
No, there you go.
Oh.
Nice.
can
And
do
you
that.
could put a nice
You
little
could do
hearth
that, too.
going there. That is a really cool idea. I like
You
that.
can do that.
I could turn it.
Just an extension
Huh.
door.
Amen. I don't think I got any electrical wire back there.
Oh.
But maybe I would. But that's not the end of the world. I could reroute that
Sure.
wire. Yeah, I never really thought of that. You could turn. This would be like a tiny house design, tiny house / sauna design to beat the band, couldn't
I've thought about that in my mind at the firehouse if I could, because it'd be so, when I'm just using the changing room area as a living space and as like a reading out there or whatever,
it? Mm-hmm.
it'd be so nice to have the stove ambiance
Yeah.
in the living space,
Yeah.
rather than just have it behind that closed door of the hot room. So I thought, what if I like had the door so it was like folded up onto the ceiling and then just to open the room up, so it could be a sauna or a living room kind of area. But the real answer would be to do the sauna stove feed door into my changing room, and then I would have the best of both.
That was a surprising answer. I did not expect you to pick the changing room.
Yeah,
If
if you'd asked me a
A-
week
yeah.
ago, I wouldn't have said that.
So your Vata tendency came out.
No,
See, this
not,
is the
not
value of-
The 10, you can't. You wait for that term around. It's like you say it, but it's like 50% of the time. It's
I'm just shoveling shit. No, it makes sense if you really think it through. That's what's good about you come up with these ideas, and they come and they go and they change and they alter.
Well,
and it's like
I would like. I have an opinion, and I love it when my opinion changes because I learned something. You know what I mean? I like being wrong because it just means you're learning something. But I do have. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna have an opinion about it because why the hell not? Like I do, I care, but I don't care for the sake of caring. I care for the sake of like learning about what your opinion is, and if it's for a better reason than what mine is, then that's why we're having this conversation in the first place.
Right. Okay. Well, let's tie that back into the 612 Sauna Society, because I think you actually really, JP, you touched on something, and that's what brings this community element. And when you can talk on a sauna bench and hear other people's ideas to improve on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that you care and that, like you're open to new ideas. And I think sauna, fosters that.
Yeah.
That line of thinking.
Fosters it for sure. I think that's. Well, I don't know. I mean, we're sitting here with. We should ask Lee. Lee came to the sauna. Started coming to sauna and then kept coming and coming back. I don't know why that is, or why if it had to do with the conversation or had to do with.
He's got a crush on you, JP.
Well, yeah, it was. I think I may have mentioned it before, but when you see something in the newspaper or on TV about a sauna, it hasn't had the best reputation in the U.S. probably the last 20 years, maybe 30, maybe longer. So I saw that article on a sauna and not having the ability to take a sauna in the Twin Cities, a true sauna, and saw that article in Care 11. Check it out. And the worst case scenario is I check it out. It's what everybody else says about saunas, public saunas, turn around and walk out. But it wasn't the case. So what it was a bunch of really cool people from different walks of life and different ages that all had enjoyed sauna at some point in their life and wanted to come back and wanted to experience that, and they're willing to do it with people who also had that same feeling they did. So kind of building that community of people that are drawn to the steam.
Drawn to the steam. I like that.
That's
People drawn to the steam.
title for something.
I have that here now.
You're reading my mind, Garrett. Yeah. There's a soundbite, JP.
Drawn to steam.
That's beautiful.
That
was
what
really
it is.
well
With
said.
people from
Lee.
all over, and it was.
Yeah.
Where was your first? You
This
came
is
down
the
to
kind of
Como?
people I like to do
Como
that.
Park was it your
That was
first
Como, yeah.
trip down?
Right
That was a beautiful spot, wasn't it?
It was
In front
a
of
nice spot.
that
It was
pavilion
until
and all
somebody tore it up with a bunch of tires.
we had no choice.
So JP, we were going through some numbers just recently about how many unique visitors. I use that term, and we came up with that 600-800 as a rough number of how many different people came through sauna this winter on your effort.
That was just that, and that was at Little Box, and then there's the firehouse as well, which would
Bump that up north.
Bump
That's
that
your
up
own
north.
private sauna that resides now in the backyard of where you live.
Yep.
And you hosted a lot of unique visitors or people, which is even more interesting to me, that you would invite people that you've never met before over to your own private sauna.
Well, not usually, but that usually people end up at mine because they're coming with some, either because I know them or they're coming with somebody that I know. But
Yeah. So add those numbers in a couple hundred. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. Or you tell me.
What for this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said before, probably like around 2,100.
Right.
Yeah.
Of which maybe 800 were you. 800 different people to make up 2,100 visits.
Yeah.
God, those are just amazing numbers. First of all,
and I would say though too, like the numbers they are when you sit back and do it, but it's really the least impressive part of, or the least interesting part of the whole thing. What's so interesting to me is whether it's like a night like you coming over on a Friday and us untangling the wires and you helping me figure out whether I should, what I should do about my apartment, and just talking about work and just sorting some real life stuff out. Or it's a night that came about in a little bit more of a Magnus Nielsen sauna at my place this week, which sounds kind of like a what do you call it, a publicity stunt or something.
Or a name check.
Yeah,
Name
yeah.
drop.
Yeah.
But
Now,
the-
for
but the
those
actual
for those listening that don't know Magnus, how do you pronounce his last name?
I believe it's Nilsson. It's
Mm.
Nilsson.
And Magnus is
Swedish.
Swedish.
Yep.
And what does he do?
He's a chef. He's
Mhm.
a chef at one of the most famous and well-renowned restaurants in the world in northern Sweden. And he was in town for an opening. The American Swedish Institute has done a exhibit on him and his work and the restaurant that he manages and operates now.
Sweet.
So they had an opening event, and then after the opening, they came over and had a sauna. And what I was going to say about whether it's you and I or the way that the event with the gathering with him is, it was kind of like the same in terms of just like a
Celebrity chef is like anyone else.
and
The vibe.
the vibe. I mean, the vibe of the night. Like it actually was it was like right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
Just a person
Just the
sweating,
same.
drawn to
Yeah.
the steam.
Yeah, you really, egos get checked at the door. Not like he's got one. He sounds like a remarkably cool guy.
Yeah.
And you mentioned on the drive up what a fun time it was and
Yeah.
stuff. But it is really a great equalizer, isn't it? The sauna bench.
It is. It is.
Well, and what was fun with him, just personally, was he wasn't, his on-camera persona wasn't in evidence. He was just a person. And I'm sure it's a little different when he's doing the culinary TV show that gets broadcast all over the world.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That was just neat.
Yeah.
Anything more you want to say about that event? That was a couple nights ago, wasn't it, JP?
Yeah, that was just Wednesday. Well,
We're still trying to catch up on sleep.
we're still trying to catch up on sleep from it. Yeah, it did go pretty late because I came over after the main event. The other piece of it, part of when they were asking me to do it, my friend Scott is the director at the American Swedish Institute. Somehow one of the statues from the museum ended up at my bonfire that night.
Aha, I see. And how big is this statue?
It's like bigger than a real goat. It's a goat statue.
Is this statue by chance made out of stone or rock?
Yeah.
Is it heavy?
Yeah, it's like a statue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did it appear in the morning or at night
Well,
or somewhere in between?
When it showed up, I remembered that, and it wasn't like my objective or anything, but like when Scott floated the idea by me, it's like, hey, this event is, we're doing this event. I think it'd be cool to come over to your place for a sauna afterwards. And it's like he called me out. We had the chat. We were having coffee in the courtyard at the American Swedish Institute. They got these two chairs in the middle of the courtyard, just in the middle of it, surrounded by nothing. And Scott floated the idea, and it kind of felt like a moment when, like, even though, he knows, like, you don't have to strike a deal with me to get bench space. It's like, sure, want to go now?
Yeah, sure.
You get out for it. But it did feel, I think, because of this, like, strange seating, the way that we were out there like masterminds in the middle of this, like, beautiful courtyard with these huge oversized chairs, felt like I had to, like make a counter offer. Like, okay, but. And I looked around and I had no but because I would probably have been sounding whether or not they all would have came, but I looked around and I just saw this goat statue up on the roof, and I just said, okay, but the goat comes with. And Scott looked at me without hesitating or even just without even breaking pace and just breaking stride, and just goes, okay, deal.
Nice.
And we shook hands, and that was the end of the meeting. And I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Just because that goat thing wasn't that important. It just also felt like the deal was done. Like, right energy was exchanged, or there's like an ask. They say yes and offer accepted, handshake, see you later.
Yes.
And then
Solidify the
deal.
deal.
Was a few days later, it was like 48 hours later. Oh yeah, that's tonight. Oh yeah, they here. Oh, Magnus Nielsen, cool, blah blah blah. Oh, that's the goat.
Yeah.
So I forgot that was part of the deal.
So the goat showed up.
The goat showed up.
And it shows integrity from the Swedish Institute that they delivered based on the conditions of the contract.
Or that they, I don't know how.
It's getting hot in here, isn't it?
I don't know that it had their official sign off on that. It did end up at my place, after an event that went late, and I don't know whether Magnus.
It found its own way to your sauna.
It found its own way, but I think it was it had the blessing It ended up back there safely.
I was gonna say, is
Nice.
the goat still
The goat-
grazing, or is
Well,
it
I did say they would get it back when they let me build the sauna on the rooftop.
Oh.
You know, where the goat stood. But I got a good ransom.
Yeah.
You know.
So you one upped. So this
I
is
don't
a
know
good.
what else to do, man. It's like people don't. Why doesn't this stuff already exist? I've tried. You know, we try to just like talk about it, and end up just kind of sounding like we're
Why
wringing our
doesn't a
hands.
Sauna Ghost exist?
No,
Or
like
Ghost?
a public, like a nice community sauna that just is the kind of like home base for 612 Sauna Society that like wants to happen. Like, why doesn't that? It's not a like. It's the question isn't why is Little Box or the sauna co-op that we've been talking about. Why is that? Why the question isn't why is that going to work? The question is really why hasn't it already happened?
Yeah, I think a better question at this day is when will it happen?
But the question why hasn't it? Why doesn't it already exist?
Hey.
Is a really
Yes.
because it's not like it's some genius like idea. It's not like nobody's thought about it. It's not like somebody hasn't thought about it every week and email you
Yeah,
or
but we
I'd be
should
like,
really put it by a lake so we can jump in the lake.
It's a good
JP.
idea.
oh my god, we just
What
did.
an idea!
No, but like
To that point,
everybody knows that this is like duh.
right?
It's radically duh.
But
Why
JP,
doesn't it exist?
here's the reason: is because they build cars with windshields bigger than rear view mirrors for a reason, and that's the philosophy we need to apply here. We're not going to look at the rear view mirror and say, look, we've been down this road for 2 years and 3 months and 40 miles. Look at this great opportunity that's right in front of us now.
I think looking at the past is important though, and I think that when you look at the past of why, like, because it's not like there aren't public sauna spaces available, but why do they not have that that experience? Why do they not provide the experience that has kept this tradition alive for over 1,000 years?
Well, when
That is a good question.
Yeah, well,
Before you ask anybody to like, contribute or become a member of anything, I think you have to take a hard look at that. And I think when you do, one thing that I've seen in that is that those spaces, the traditional sauna here, you invited us to your cabin. You invited us. You're hosting us. There's this exchange of like, you're giving us something and we're receiving it. And one thing that doesn't exist at the YWCA or at Lifetime is there's not this exchange of an offering and a receiving. There is in that you bought your membership and you're paying for it, but the energy of that exchange is very different from that. I'm buying something that I deserve at some level because my money is worth this.
Mhm.
So I think that's one thing that's lost from the backyard tradition to public spaces.
Yes.
And that's one reason that I do think that I'm really excited about this cooperative idea when we start to just change what the relationship is between the people that are receiving and the people that are giving. It's not just one person who's investing in a space and then trying to make the money back and make more than their money back. It's a bunch of people making a resource available to other people and keeping it available in a sustainable way.
Well done. I like that. A couple nights ago, while you and Magnus were sharing northern Swedish pate, I happened to be down in Chicago at Chicago Sweat Lodge. And I can't wait to hook you up, JP, with Bill Trotter, the GM down there, who has established the vibe that you're speaking about, where people are very respectful.
GM, is that what they call a sauna?
Well, he's the general
down in
manager.
Chicago?
Yeah, well, he came from the restaurant industry, where his partner who funded it, so
Did
they
you call
use
him
that
GM?
terminology. But you could call him Superior Saunameister. I could introduce him to you like that.
Lead janitor?
If there is a more, there's probably only 10 more experienced saunameisters in North America than Bill Trotter. A guy who comes into work every day and helps make sure everybody's having a good experience in Chicago Sweat Lodge.
Good point.
Yeah. And the other 9 would be fun to have on this podcast.
Can you
including
think of
Bill.
who else would be on that list?
Well, I would think, Michael, who owns Archimedes Banya, certainly had drive toward developing superior saunameister, capability. He had to be a superior saunameister before he laid one brick,
I don't know, actually. I mean, I don't know I don't know the story of that, but like having the coin to start something is different from like being a host. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And I know because like you don't have to have Yeah, so I don't know, but I met him, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was a big part of it for him.
Yeah.
Because he seemed like somebody who really had a relationship with the space and the people there.
Right, right. And I think it's great. I think that there's, it doesn't matter what the number is. The point is being a saunameister is more than just the physics of enough towels or the janitor work that you allude to. I think it has to take a real high sensitivity toward, people. Like, you have to be a real people person and feel the energy of people to help things roll. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think one thing that I've noticed is that like the individuals and the experiences that have been really like memorable to me, and just following up with people to other people at Little Box, it's got a lot to do with like relationships and like nothing, like no skill that I have, but like actually real people that mean something to me, that invited other people that really mean something to them, along with that new person who's got no relationships, but that kind of is their relationship to the space, is that it's so, they didn't know anybody, but they just heard about this thing that sounded like it could be, have integrity and be delightful, and they took a chance on it. That's a relationship as well, but like there was a chance and somebody stepped into that.
Like you, Lee.
That's me.
Yeah, right. Right.
But
have you ever gone to Little Box Sauna? How many visits for you?
I don't know.
8,
I
10?
didn't make the top 20 probably because I started in February.
Right. So 10 maybe?
Oh, I think, yeah.
Did you ever bring a buddy that you know in those 10 visits?
I brought a couple. Yeah.
Brought a couple.
Yeah.
And what was their vibe?
I think they were a little apprehension coming into it. What is this going to be? I tried to explain them what the procedure when you walk in, the change rooms, the attire. You tried to explain all of that to them so they get a better comfort feeling that it isn't what you grew up thinking maybe a public sauna might be in Minneapolis. And I think after the first time, they were like, okay, yeah, this is not bad. I can do this again.
if I could, it's one thing to explain that to people like you do, and the reason that I am really actually super excited and like I don't know what's gonna happen, but like excited in the right ways of this co-op is one thing for people like you who like know how to explain it to people, to say the right words. It's another thing for you to say that them as an owner.
Yeah.
Sure.
As someone who actually owns the space as much as I do, or Glenn does. And it's not that you would say anything different, but you inviting those people to a space that actually legally, financially is yours. It just somehow, and maybe someday I'll be able to articulate that better, but for some reason I really feel that it's different. It's a different conversation.
It probably is different.
I agree.
Even if it has the same words.
And even who you have the conversation with or who you don't have the conversation with.
Right.
Yeah.
This show is brought to you by Sun Country Airlines. Sun Country is staffed by cheerful humans, and wherever Sun Country flies, they are competitive and keep the airfare honest. So whether I'm checking out Temescal in Tulum or the Archimedes Banya in San Francisco, Sun Country Airlines is the first and last place I go for decent air travel. So tell me what the cabin is like. How many people does it sleep and
Small. So what it was a small. So back in the day, a lot of the Finns, when they set up their homestead, would have a summer kitchen. So a small house or shed or whatever you would call it today. And that's where they would do a lot of their cooking in the summer, so it wouldn't heat the house up. It was, no electricity, no central air conditioning back then. And so this was an old summer kitchen in Sedan, Minnesota. And so I think my grandfather worked for whatever was U.S. Steel before U.S. Steel, but they owned it was U.S. Steel, but owned the Sedan Underground Mine.
Sure.
And he was a miner there.
This was your grandfather?
My grandfather.
Yeah.
And they owned, U.S. Steel owned pretty much a majority of the east end of this lake.
That's right.
On mining property. And at one point, they decided to offer up the islands that they owned for sale to the miners via payroll deduction. So.
Wow. Is that how the Seven Sisters were sold?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But that's how your grandfather bought your island.
But that's how we bought our island, was you get a payroll deduction. I think back then, I think I've heard the story is $150.
Yeah.
Payroll deduction. I suppose back then that was a chunk of change, but
Yeah, but relatively speaking, it was probably fair market value.
Yeah.
And those that were into that scene and wanted to own something, it was a nice perk to be able to.
It's not large. It's 2 to 3 acre. It's a glacially carved rock knob that sticks out of the water.
Yeah.
And over the years, enough pine trees and leaves have fallen, which created a few inches of soil.
Yeah.
And a couple trees grab root and make their way to the lake, and so we have enough for some trees. And
How many can it sleep?
the cabin. So the summer kitchen cabin has had a couple extensions on it over the years, but it can sleep. As many as you can put in there. We've had quite a few in there before. Could sleep 10.
Yeah.
It's got two bedrooms. One bedroom has two beds in it. One bedroom has one bed.
And so
Kitchen and
and
a living room.
you mentioned you go up like every weekend as much as you can,
As much
right?
as I can. Yeah.
And then how does that work with your other siblings and nieces and nephews and stuff? Like whoever's there is there, or
Yeah. So what we try to do is we try to just coordinate with everybody, who's coming, who's going, who's not going, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do is we don't say, hey, I want the cabin for the weekend, or I want this for the week, here's the week I want. So we're trying to keep the cabin a family cabin. If you want to go on vacation, rent a hotel room, but and have a party and bring your friends. You can still bring your friends here, but just know that other family might be coming out too. And if you don't have your own boat, and we have a boat in the boathouse that people can use, that's where you have to coordinate how do you get there.
Yes, I live that too.
Yeah,
Who's
you
coming,
do, 'cause
who's going.
you can't just drive here, right?
Right.
Who's got to pick somebody up? Hey, I'm going to be up by 2. Can you pick me up at the boat landing? Or you have the same.
Yep.
You can't just drive there. It's a whole different. I have friends that have cabins on this lake, and it's nothing for them to just drive up and go. And
I know. On the mainland, you mean?
Yeah.
Julie and I will speak to this. So, there's times, first of all, the idea of hopping in a boat and getting out to Pine Island for me is a lot less than Julia, because I'm really comfy in either boat, in any weather. I've proved it to myself that I can do it in harried situations. And I know you have a lot of open water to get from Stunts Bay out to your area. And if you have that wind in that, you tell me what the worst direction is. Is it due west that'll hit you hard?
Those are the biggest. Those are the biggest waves.
But you can even do that in your 14 foot with a 15 horse motor if you just dodge behind those islands in the right way, right?
If you tack it the right way.
That's it.
Yep.
It's about tacking. And I'm not gonna throw Julie under the bus or whatever, but for her it's a little intimidating to have white caps and big waves. She can handle it fine in the big boat, but landing's a bitch, especially here if we have an easterly. It is kind of treacherous. So anyhow, so we've talked about mainland and the advantages of that. One of the key ones is if you're in the cities and you want to leave the cities at 7, 8 p.m., it's not a big deal. You just park your car and walk in the door.
That's true.
But all that being said, I just love the island life. I mean, Gary, we chatted about that on the island hike. It's just such a magical, beautiful experience to be away from cars.
Yeah, well, it's a psychological and a physical remove that
Yeah.
is way bigger than the actual dimensions of it.
Yeah, well said. That's how I feel about it. I feel that separation from the busy life that I leave behind, when I come up here. You feel it, Lee?
Oh, all the time. That's the draw.
Yeah.
It's you're not in the city, and when you are, when you're on the weekend, you're there. It's a different, hurried life.
And I find when I'm up here for an extended period, it's so liberating to not walk out the back door and have a car sitting there. It's almost like the car has a soul, and it's saying, take me somewhere.
Yeah.
Take me here. Take me there. Let's
Yeah.
go here.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's so neat to be away from that connection.
I went out to an island in Penobscot Bay with friends that have a place this spring, and of course, April waves. It's still winter seascape basically, and I'm a canoeist, not a mariner.
Yeah.
So I'm terrified of anything out there. And anyway, the guy from the island with the boat that's going to pick us up says, yeah, I can do it today. I'll meet you at the landing. He did. And we head out of the sheltered place, and I'm looking around thinking, holy crap.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I may be unfamiliar, but I know things are going on, and it didn't take me long.
What do you mean? What things were going on?
Well, he was negotiating each wave as an individual.
Yeah.
You know, with a 30-foot lobster boat. So
Those are big waves then.
it's big stuff, and I'm thinking, we got a 1.5 mile crossing,
Yeah.
and it's going to be it's not a direct 1.5 miles because he's going to dodge around another island and sneak in and get us in, and he did. And I thought, oh boy, I just don't know these lobster boats and tides and rips and this and that. And then we get there, and our hosts, Bill and June, are saying, boy, I think that might have been a dicey crossing. What do you think? Yeah, that's certainly the roughest we've made. And I'm thinking, oh really? So,
You thought this was like a normal deal.
well, I figured the guy knew what he was doing. He
Sure.
wouldn't have been doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're walking around. It's a tiny island, and it has 1 or 2 vehicles on it and some farm equipment, but no real roads and no.
Well, on Lake Vermilion, we would call that a big island. wouldn't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, there you
Well, for an offshore island in Maine, it's a tiny island.
Really?
And
So wait,
it's a mile long.
let's a mile long. Okay.
And it's a 1/2 mile wide.
Okay. And you call that a small island?
Yeah, and there's one year-round family that's been there for 5 or 6 generations. It's
Yeah.
the caretaker for the rusticators that go there.
Cool.
Anyway,
Yeah.
um,
How many cabins on the island then?
boy, there must be 10 or 12, and they're really nice. They're not mega wealth
Yeah.
being there,
Yeah.
and if it is mega wealth, it's tasteful mega wealth.
Yeah.
And,
Tasteful mega well.
and
God,
when
I
you
like
Not-
that.
not
That's
in
a
your
second
face,
good
yeah.
line.
when you're looking at the other adjacent islands where
Yeah.
some big shot from New York or Philadelphia
Yeah.
has his helicopter pad on
Exactly.
the rocks and a humongous house that would dwarf anything
Right.
anybody would have.
Off scale to the max.
Anyway, we're talking to this 74-year-old guy, Bob Quinn, the boat driver, and my host June said, Bob, that looked a little rough yesterday, and he said, yeah, we shouldn't have been out there. And I went, oh, is that so?
So what was the boat that you crossed in again?
Oh, it's probably 30-some feet, working lobster boat.
That's a pretty damn big boat.
And wide, they're big,
Too. Yeah.
seaworthy, and their shear lines built to deflect waves. And,
Right.
But
Built for that exact
environment.
climate, that
And,
scene.
But it was
Yeah.
pretty neat because I could appreciate, what little I could recognize of his doings as, every 74 of those years has got an
Yeah.
ingredient in that recipe.
You want him driving that boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done.
And anyway, it was I'm glad I learned after the fact that it was a rough crossing, not
Yeah.
beforehand, because I was thinking, well, this looks pretty bad to me.
It's funny in life, I had a rough crossing in my 14-foot crestliner, the one we were talking about, Lee, out on the dock. It was windier than hell, and it was a south wind. And you come off my dock and head toward Grubens, and you're going due south.
Yeah.
And it was like, shit, that's the direction I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I was fairly experienced with that little boat at that time. But to make a long story short, it's when you're alone in a tiller steer
Yeah.
boat,
And you're not necessarily trimmed well.
you're not trimmed well, exactly. And that you have a perfect storm in the sense that bow rises up and that wind throws that like
Yeah.
a sail. I got flipped around. I'm heading south,
Yeah.
coming out of my dock,
and the wind gusted, and the next thing I knew, I don't know what happened, but I'm all of a sudden heading north.
Yeah.
I'm like, that
180
freaked me out.
Doesn't take long to occur.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
actually,
wind
you're
is
lucky
good.
it doesn't, because you don't want to be broadside in the middle for
Yeah.
more than a billionth of a second.
So then I took in a bunch of water, and so I cruised around in that bay straight out from us, Comet, and had cover from the heavy winds.
Yeah.
And I circled that bay about 6-8 times to get the water out of the back of that boat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are we still recording?
Yeah, the wind throwing the boat can be worse than the wave dynamics in some cases.
Yeah.
And they're always related, but not if a storm surge a couple days old is pounding in and you're still
Yeah.
watching big green breaking things,
Oh,
wondering,
Isn't
you
that
know,
crazy?
is the 750th wave the rogue
Yeah, that's
that
right.
my shear line's not capable of?
Yeah. You've done a lot of paddling, a lot of canoeing.
Yeah, in Maine and Quebec and Labrador. So the scary part for us is not the rapids; it's the big crossings.
That's right. Especially in early season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a freaky thing to be in a canoe in open water and to know that if you tipped, there's a good chance you will not survive.
Yeah, well, and up, you know, in Quebec and Labrador, it's hypothermia season all year long,
Okay.
and you may get 45 minutes of extreme misery till you croak in the
Yeah.
summer. But
Yeah.
I'd rather go in the winter when you got a few minutes and then you're gone and you don't worry about it.
It's a desperate situation, and this perfect problem happened to a friend of mine who has a boundary water trip from hell. He went up out of up 61, your stomping grounds,
Yeah.
went into the boundary waters, and the first cardinal sin he made is there were 4 guys. He didn't know 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
He was a friends of friends and all that, and he gets paired up with a guy who was one of those guys who says, yeah, I know how to canoe. I know how
Oh,
to canoe.
right. They're
And
the
the-
most dangerous.
Yep, and it was day 1. They are full packed, everything,
Yeah.
and they're on their first crossing, and the wind's howling, and it's spring, and the guy flipped it on my friend, who's a pretty well experienced paddler, and they were in a desperate spot there.
Yeah, you are. And even when it ends happily, you still were, and you just don't know where that threshold was.
Yeah.
But you did get away with
How
something.
close you can.
Yeah, they were in a rush to get to mainland. They did everything right as best they could in the
Yeah.
circumstances. Got a fire going right away. It was like right on a raw shoreline, and that was their path toward recovery is
Yeah.
heat in a fire.
Well, as a guide, I would always take the least experienced, and my partner would too. And that was great, because people with no experience listen, and they do what you
Exactly.
say, and they ask for the nuances.
Yes.
And
They don't try too hard either.
the dangerous person is somebody who blundered their way through a class 2 or 3 rapid by luck one trip and declares themselves, oh yeah, I'm a solid class 3 paddler.
Yeah.
And you ask them to back paddle and they don't know what you're talking about, or you ask them, we're gonna do a downstream ferry here, but next one we're gonna spin in that eddy and we're gonna do an upstream ferry. They have no clue.
Right.
Mm.
And that's good for you.
They know how to go fast and faster than the current, which is great in a easy rapid with a lot of
I see.
space. But when you got a maneuver and when you got waves you can't accommodate, you spend a lot of time figuring out how to avoid them. And
Yeah.
when you have a beginner, they're great. You
Yeah.
say, it's counterintuitive. I need you to draw on the left side. It's going to feel like it's toward that rock to you, but it's
Right.
actually setting up a ferry angle. The current's going to shoot us to the right. We'll
Yeah.
miss it,
Yeah.
and we won't have to work.
Yeah.
And
Also-
we're going slower than the current, and it's the sidewash on the canoe that pushes you and the load
Yeah.
to the offside. And it's,
Yeah. Another word that comes into mind there is like trust, right?
yeah,
And when you have someone completely inexperienced, they're
they
submitting.
trust you. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not going to fight you and say, no, let me pull this side over, and then that's tough. You can only have one guy. Or do you usually paddle stern?
If it's with a beginner, or if the day is such that it's easy, I always offer, hey, you want to learn stern and moving water today? It's easy rapids, you can do it. I'll coach you from the bow.
That's cool.
Or, you know, this is dicey lake conditions. Can I take stern for
Yeah.
now? And
Yeah.
I'll give it back the minute we're in the lee of that island. And you know, one day of the trip maybe we'll say, yeah, give it a go.
Yeah.
Or on a rapid, it's a great moment as a guide when you say, hey, you ready to do this stern?
Yeah.
And they'll gulp and say, yeah, let's try it.
Yeah.
And they're so scared they do it flawlessly.
Oh.
Just the greatest chill you get
That's
when you're
nice.
at the bottom and you think,
So if you're paddling with someone of equal, you know, equal experience and capabilities and stuff, do you prefer bow or stern? Or?
if it's equal, I'm either. And it's better to switch all day, and then you really are equals, because especially with couples, it seems that people settle in an end and they never move out.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the needs of the other end you're not in are, you're not a good teacher for that end.
Good point.
So it's
There's a good metaphor there.
There's a good metaphor.
in the rapids where it's finesse and technique. It's really gratifying. In a big lake, it's a little easier because you say, well, we're not going out there, or if we do, and if this happens, here's our strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Have you flipped in any tough spots?
no,
I never have.
on commercial trips, there have been maybe 15 capsizes in a 30-year career.
Mm-hmm.
Half of them, the silly ones that happen when you're loading or you're on a ledge with one foot and in the canoe with the other.
You're
know,
right
just-
at shore.
It's not life-threatening.
Isn't it amazing how once you get underway and you lose the relativity of shoreline, everything becomes so much easier because the variables gets reduced, like just
Yeah,
to
your
the
focus
wave.
gets to right where you need it.
Yeah, yeah.
You get a boundman that says, there's one way over there. Don't worry about that one. We're not anywhere near that one.
That's right.
There's 3 in front of us that we do see, and who knows how many we don't see. We're going to avoid them right now.
You're talking big waves.
Yeah.
Do you like to
Well-
quarter waves in a canoe?
Yeah, well, in a canoe, if it's an open canoe, which usually we use spray covers on personal private trips, but you can do 2 things. You quarter them when you can, and the other thing is, if you have to spin, you spin on the crest when the ends of the canoe are out of the water,
Yeah.
and you can do it.
Yeah,
A
you
good
can.
solid draw stroke on opposite sides from each end will spin you.
Yep, yep. So that's like come about in a
Yeah,
sailboat.
so if you're in a barely navigable tailwind and you're getting nerved out by it and say, look, we need a rest.
Yeah.
You pick a wave, the lowest you see coming, spin on it, and you just hold, heading into the wind. It's called weathercocking. Sailors
like
do it
that.
a lot.
Yeah.
And when you get your wits back and your strength back, you say, okay, I see 10th wave up, that's low, not breaking. We'll spin on that one, and we'll resume that stern quarter.
So this is where the tail went.
Yeah.
And what you're looking for there is to spin around so that your head is into the wind and you can take a breather.
Yeah, you
from the-
basically stop. You're probably drifting backwards.
That's
a little,
right.
But you're not fighting for every fragment of control.
Exactly.
And
And that's a
you're
rest point. then.
Yeah.
Even though you may be back, the wind is pulling you back, which is where you want to go anyway.
Actually, I'm talking too much. I gotta go cool. I can talk through the door. Just looking into the wind, you see everything coming,
Right.
and you're ready for it.
There's a lot of metaphors to life here. Maybe we
Two
should
things happen.
we
You
should
get
translate
rolling
that in
danger
some way.
before you know it, and rogue waves sneak up behind you and sneak over the gunnels.
Again, another metaphor.
So that's why you stay guys forward.
Too many metaphors. It's like the cheesy part of the movie where like, everything makes perfect
Right.
sense.
Everything. Yeah, that's so right. I know. That would be kind of funny though. Like there's 2 conversations going on. One's a literal one and one's a metaphorical one.
What's the story behind your little guy there in the corner?
That was given to me by the Finnish Sauna Society chief executive officer. What
Okay.
a great guy, Jarmo Lehtinen. He sent this to me along with some gifts from Finland. I guess, you know, I mean,
Do you put oil in it, or is it a good luck?
I just
Sauna.
leave it right on the sauna rocks, and it's kind of neat that the guy's staring at us right now. And
Smiling.
I mean, what a cool gift, you know. I mean, I think of him, you know, when
Yeah.
he talks about on the rocks. I think about sauna culture as an international thing,
Mhm.
you know. It's paying homage to Finland. You know, it's interesting about sauna, you know, like in heat practices all over the Russian banya and the Temescal and American sweat lodge and stuff. You know, I'm so partial to the Finnish sauna as the method of sweat because of my exposure to it, you know, at an impressionable age. I was hitchhiking around Scandinavia and stuff. So I just immediately gravitated to the Finnish version of sweat. It's the one that speaks to me, you know, and the whole nature thing, Lee, like we were speaking about, you know, being on the shores of a beautiful cold lake and jumping in. It's just my vibe, you know. And to know that this is happening right now in Finland, like there's three Finlanders sitting on a bench talking about us three Americans sitting on a bench. That's a pretty cool thing.
That's right. That's right. Or if they haven't been here yet, joking about how us Americans must take sauna.
Yeah. But I tell you, a Finn is right on par with this vibe.
This is all similar.
That's why I'm looking forward to going back to Finland too. I mean, what a novelty, you know. I mean, here it is. Like it'd be like some Finlander come to America and say, "I really love cheeseburgers," and cruising around. Like, imagine all the different grill outs he'd be invited to.
That's true. But they do like their saunas when they're here.
Yeah.
So when they hear of someone that has a sauna,
Yeah. That's why, you know, Sauna Talk also involves the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport and an installation, JP, that could be had right there in just, you know, right in the confines.
One of the best times the sauna is where you land someplace, and there's been a place where it's the oldest sauna tradition in North America is Minneapolis. Like, that'd be a very, not only like physiologically, like the perfect time to sauna and the perfect thing to do after you arrive after a long plane ride.
Exactly.
It also has the cultural relevancy of like when you show up at the airport and like, oh, it's Minnesota. They like cuts. There's like a timber wolf.
Right.
Like,
yes.
it
It's
actually
a slice toward the culture.
Yeah. They try to like introduce people to the city there. That's a great thing to be introduced to.
Yeah, and where it would happen, I mean, you know, if we were gifted $50,000 and could do this and had a...
Let's make it 60. Why not?
All right, 60, and then we had the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport Commission like giving us a green light to do what we wanted. Would we choose to do it on the property of Minneapolis Airport, or would we take our $60,000 and try to secure an off-site place, either at a hotel close by on the 494 Strip, or God forbid, get the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Department to carve out real estate?
I think it's off-site because I think again transition. It's all about transitions, right?
Right on.
The transition to the sauna, whether it's like we had to get in a boat and come out here on the.
Yes.
But I think there should be a little bit. It shouldn't be right at the airport. There
Like
should be
the
a little
answer.
bit of a transition.
Well done.
that was a Finlander road. When you can feel it in your nose, that's good.
That's the type of steam you can only get from a real sauna stove.
That's right.
If you put that amount of water on my old stove, the steam really reveals where the heat is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the water really reveals where the heat is. If you put that amount of water on my old stove, it come with a blast to your face right up front.
Right in the front part.
Immediately, that was so discomfortable and not pleasant. As opposed to where all the heat from this is more distributed.
circulating.
Like it's still coming.
Yeah.
Like it's actually just still increasing right now.
Yep.
But like that delay, that's the difference.
Yeah, it's not one burst.
No.
And that was on your old stove, right?
Yeah.
Contrast that with your new stove now.
Yeah, it's more like this. Where if you put on a bunch of water.
A sustained steam.
Yeah.
Did your old one, because it was smaller, did it cool out faster? So you had to take advantage of those bursts and like strategically place your water for the burst.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Because like when it would cool down, I mean, my new stove is always hot. Like there's always enough resonant heat there to get a good blast of steam. With my old stove, it would cool down so much that there would be times when, like, it wouldn't produce good load. So you have to make sure you kept it hot or did the steam when the fire was right.
I'm gonna do one more. All right. Yeah, perfect.
Hey.
Hey, what's your name again?
Toivo.
Jacques?
Toivo.
Miko Toivo?
Toivo. Miko's my brother.
Let me do rapid fire questions.
Oh yeah, yeah. JP, you partook in the rapid. I still gotta publish our previous sauna talk.
Oh yeah?
I got 3 to publish. Scott Riesenen is gonna be next, and then you, and then there's another one, and then I think I'll publish this one. So there'll be a few on the mix. But rapid fire question. I'll start with you, Lee. So
Oh, jeez.
if you
Wait,
could,
no. Is there a prize? I hear the ticking going on. Is there a prize at the end of this?
yeah, the prize is 10
What
degrees
is that?
warmer.
What
By
is that? What
by
is
the
that
time I
ticking?
ask
What did
you
you
the
throw in
question.
there? Why is it?
What?
What is that ticking?
Oh, that's what I did is I pulled the coals forward, and that creates more draft. And so these coals are igniting, and it's creating more heat that's expanding the metal.
Why does it create more draft when you pull the coals to the front of the
See, what happens is this stove burns from front to back, and so
Because there's more oxygen up in the
Correct.
front, right closer, yeah.
right, it creates this Venturi effect.
Yeah, so
This
you're just
pull.
you're pulling that stuff that's in the back that is less hot.
Well, it's coals that want to burn,
Yeah.
but they're deprived of oxygen
Yeah.
sitting in the back.
Okay.
So if you want to burst, this is a way we're talking about, where you want to put your feed from the hot room, feed from the change room. One of the reasons why my vote is feed from the hot room is because with this stove, or any good sauna stove, is it's efficient. So you're using gasification. 70% of the BTUs in a stick of wood is in the smoke. And so if you're burning inefficiently, you're needing more wood. You're not getting all the fuel out of that wood.
Yeah.
These burn super efficient.
That's just so the most of the heat, what you said is most of the heat is in the smoke.
Right.
That's where the heat exists in the sauna
Yeah,
stove.
the gas
Yeah.
from the burning.
Yeah. Of course.
So as you pull these forward, there's a Venturi effect. There's more oxygen, and that chamber heats up really quick because it wants to go. So back to wood management. What I've learned through many saunas and all that is just by doing what we're doing, it saves you a stick of wood. Because instead of adding wood when you think you need it, if you pull that forward, it saves a stick.
Yep. rather than have it like burn out when we're not in here anymore.
Yeah, and the added bonus is all of that ash burns off. So when you come start your sauna again, there's not a lot of ash in your heat box, firebox. So we're 10 degrees warmer. And the rapid fire question for Lee is, if you could build
Back around.
10 minutes later, rapid fire.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's what Sauna Talk's all about, right? There's no time to this. It's just whether the listener is still bearing with us or not.
That's true.
And
I know I'm
hopefully,
not.
we already lost one. Okay, all right. So if you could build a kick-ass sauna and bring it anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
It would be somewhere on a cold lake, much like we are today. The water's not hot, the weather's not hot, there's rain, it's perfect. But it's got to be a cold lake. You could have 80 degree outside, a nice glacier-fed lake.
Nice.
Perfect. So you're talking a certain latitude and above.
Right. So immediately you've taken the world and you've cut it.
I've cut out 3/4 of that right away.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can say the bottom quarter.
There you go.
You know, I haven't saunaed in Antarctica yet.
Interesting question, Lee. So what would be the when you think about northern Minnesota,
Yeah, sure.
Sweden, Finland, Russia has a lot of this climate, right? As you go around the globe, there is this thing going on. What is the counter in the southern hemisphere of the climate we enjoy so much for sauna?
What is their counter to our sauna?
Like what is the southern hemisphere's climate equivalent to Finland, northern Minnesota, Russia, northern Russia? I don't know.
I don't know. And I can
Is it
imagine
New Zealand? Southern New Zealand?
Mid California.
Oh, they're
Outside of desert.
California, they're all good. No, I'm just joking. They're no, you know what? That cold lake vibe.
Where you don't have the glacial carved oligotrophic lakes.
I think that's for follow-up.
That's a good
looking
that's a
into
good
it.
question. But to say the best place would be on a lake such as this, wood-fired sauna.
Yeah.
I think we determined already through this discussion today it's going to be thrown in from the inside.
Okay, you're getting really particular on this, aren't you? But no lake comes to mind particularly where you would bring a mobile sauna?
Wherever people feel comfortable building the sauna, that's where they should do it.
Yeah. Well done. What do you think is most misunderstood about sauna, to those that maybe haven't grown up with sauna or know sauna really well? What is something that you think is most misunderstood about
I think it's the use of the sauna, right? So what they might know of it might be from the use of the gym, which we talked about. You don't throw water on at the gym sauna necessarily. And most places that people learn to sauna might be at the gym or after school. And that's how you learn what a sauna is. This is a really hot room. But you don't learn the benefits of the sauna. You don't learn the steam and the benefits of steam brings you in your body, your lungs. You don't get the benefit of saunaing with people that know how to sauna. So an example, like every time someone new comes to Little Box, John walks them through. If you're feeling too hot, go ahead and get up and leave.
Yeah.
We generally want you to stick around for 10-15 minutes and make sure you get out to get a cool round in, stay outside for 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
When it feels right, go back in.
So learning the process is the most misunderstood thing.
Probably learning the process of how to use the sauna versus going in the room, oh my gosh, this is too hot.
Yeah.
I'm done. They'll sit in for 5 minutes and that was their experience. They didn't experience the cool down, the camaraderie or the conversation that goes on within the sauna or outside of the sauna during the cool down. It's all part of that ambiance. It's all part of that experience.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic when you talk to someone and you say, "Oh, I like sauna." Immediately, most people think about the hot room.
Sure.
A sauna lives, breathes, dies. The process lives and dies within a hot room, and that's just scraping the surface. Because as you mentioned about a cold northern Minnesota lake or a cold lake anywhere, what you're introducing is more than just a hot room. It's part of a sauna
That's
process.
part of it. That's part of it. You have the hot room, and then you have to, as part of your process, cool off. And what better to do it in an ice cold lake?
Nice. Well done. Well done. So, Lee, if you could have a sauna anywhere or with anyone, dead or alive. Okay, like one other person, just you and one other person, just having a sauna session. Who would you choose?
I think the answer that comes to everybody's mind, 50% of the population, is Marilyn Monroe.
Do you think she was into sauna?
No. Although she was a Midwest girl, so she probably had some sort of Scandinavian connection, either directly or indirectly.
Okay.
And so she may have had. I think that's going to be my theory here.
And so you would go back in time. Marilyn Monroe,
I
obviously.
bring her forward in time.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, but as she was
But-
in her prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So it is a hypothetical.
It's a,
So
it was a hypothetical. So
you
somebody
took
of the past.
you took full use of the hypothetical.
I took
there.
full use of the
Yeah,
hypothetical.
I like that.
It
And so
depends on what mood are you feeling. Are you mood for funny conversation? That might be in that bucket.
Mhm.
If you're mood for political conversation, like why the heck did we do this in the Battle of Bulge?
there you go.
Different
Sauna
person to
and
ask.
sauna battles.
That's right.
Sauna in the world of history of battles.
Or if you want to talk about the future and exploration.
But all right, so I'm not gonna. Marilyn Monroe isn't with
She's-
us anymore, so she's fair game to throw under the bus. But
That's right.
how intelligent of a conversation would you have with Marilyn Monroe on a sauna bench?
Oh, I think pretty easily.
Yeah, you think she
I
was?
think she would ask a lot of questions, and I would be a lantern for her.
Oh, okay,
One-sided,
Yeah.
intellectual conversation.
really good.
I may be wrong. She may prove me wrong someday. There's theories that she's still alive, you know.
Yeah. Okay, another question for you. No, but under this hypothetical, I mean, I've had guests on Sauna Talk that speak to taking sauna with their grandfather. That's what I thought when you were going to say 50%.
I think I have taken saunas with my grandfather. I think I've had a really close family connection. If I wanted to go back farther in time, maybe it was the ancestors and my great grandfather before they came to the United States. What are you feeling? Why are you about to move from Finland to the United States?
So
What's
you-
driving you to come here? Great sauna talk.
No
That's a
question.
decision-making moment in every young man's life in 1917.
Yeah.
And why did he make that? And was he talking to his father in a sauna?
Wow.
And the dad said, "Boy, here's what I think you should do."
Yeah. Be nice to be in that hot room.
Wouldn't that be nice to be in that hot room just to
Yeah.
hear that?
But it would really suck if you didn't speak Finnish.
Well, and that's the case. So,
Okay. But under this hypothetical,
You
we
did,
could
you
put the
did.
caveat in there.
but I speak Finnish.
Yeah, well done. So as you think about let's talk about your sauna process. Like, how often do you sauna and where do you sauna?
Mm-hmm. So up until the Little Box, I was kind of restricted on how much I sauna. I'd probably be in the fall during hunting season at my uncle's hunting cabin, his house, and then, or was at my brother's house, which was my grandfather's that we had to tear
And
down
where's
last winter,
Where was that?
just south of Evelyn, about
That's right.
right in between Gilbert and Evelyn, in a small mining location called Sparta.
Mm-hmm. No Sparta. So so your saunas were restricted to 218, which is the area code
Yep.
for up here.
That's
So
right.
you were a tried and true Minnesotan.
Grew up 218. I've been in 612 land for the last 11 years.
Yeah. So your saunas then, living in the Twin Cities, were limited to the times you could get up north.
Or the times I can get into Little Box.
Or times. So you would sauna on average, if you took the last, say, 10 months, maybe once a week on average, once every 2 weeks?
That'd be lucky. But
That would be lucky.
once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Depending on schedule and Little Box.
Okay. So Lee, as you think about your sauna experience from everything, from the very beginning, you're like, I'm going to get to sauna, this evening, from even the anticipation all the way to the end of that night when you tuck yourself into bed and, all that. What particular phase within the whole sauna process, thinking about it, doing it, going to bed at night, whatever, what phase do you enjoy most and why?
I think in different stages of my life, you enjoy different pieces of it. When I was really young and I could fit in a large 20-gallon stainless steel tub that was on the floor with water, that was my excitement, was jumping in that little tub on the sauna floor, right? That was my excitement. Growing up into the teenage and college years, I think it was jumping into anything cold. Ice cold lake, cut a hole in the ice, or jump in a nice, lake that's got some clouds over it, some cool
Yeah.
winds.
That actual feeling of jumping in was
Yeah.
the pinnacle experience of the sauna.
Catch it. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Right now, as I'm sitting in sauna longer and maturing it, a lot of it is the time you spend in the hot room with the steam. Sometimes it's conversation, sometimes there's no conversation. It's just your mind is where it's going.
So the
Everybody's
pinnacle
mind goes
spot-
somewhere else. So.
Yeah, the pinnacle moment would be hot room upper bench
Today,
for this sauna.
for this, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Different people have different, answers to that, obviously, and I think it's indicative of the fact that, as we were alluding to earlier, is sauna is not just about the hot room.
What's yours?
I like your answer about how yours has changed over the course of your life, like the different pinnacle moments, and obviously when you're young, like young 20s or whatever, that's just so euphoric. That idea of like jumping through a hole in the ice or ice cold, you have that joie de vivre, that deep, it's like going to Valley Fair and going on the most intense roller coaster.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. But I'm 53, right? So I don't want to use the easy answer of the whole phase, and I tell you that's one of the reasons why I asked Sauna Talk guests the question, is because I don't know if I could pinpoint a specific moment within that thing. And I just need to walk that through, for the listener. I love looking at the weather, like for example, and being in Minneapolis and seeing like a really shitty forecast, cold rain, or snow. Shit, it's starting to snow. It's 10 a.m. I can't wait to fire that up. Sometimes a lot of things, the anticipation is even more exciting than the doing, right?
Yep.
So I have to be candid with you and say that front end thinking is a really powerful.
You're right. That is powerful as well.
Yeah.
It does give you a better mood knowing that you're about to do. So.
Yeah, and there's that idea of sauna. The worse the weather, the better the sauna, and you have a sauna, and it's just a way to really open up weather.
It neutralizes the weather for sure.
Yeah, and it brings out the best in weather. I mean, the worse the weather. Like I love those Minneapolis winter snowy days. I will play hooky. I will do whatever it takes to get out on fresh snow. Because I know I have a sauna in my backyard, like ticking away, waiting for me. I mean, it's a big.
Makes the frown upside down.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. All right, one more plunge.
Nice.